Hi there, Sue Grant. So as promised, I said I would show you the alternatives, a couple more on my next day. So these are what I have come up with. So if you haven't seen the paper pumpkin kit yet, it has 3 remarkable cards with the box. So I'm just going to show you those quickly, and if you want to watch my video, which may be a little longer than normal, I'm going to show you how I made these alternatives. So this is the one card, this is the other one, and this one, and those are the 3 that come in the kit, and then they come with matching envelopes, yellow, oh yeah, and a green one. So it's quite cool, easy to make, great gift. And then the video I made the other day, I had showed you a couple of alternatives that I came up with quite quickly. And that was the gold embossed Mother's Day card. And then just the flower stamped and cut out using the background paper that came in the kits. So those were my alternatives on my last video. So today I will show you how to make the ones in front of you. So let's get started, and it's going to be a bit lengthy because it is quite a process in some of these cards that I've come up with. So we're going to start with this purple one. Just leave those there. So for this purple one, I have used Stampin' Up's shimmery white cardstock, and I have simply done water coloring with the flower that comes in this stamp set. So these are the stamps that came with this month's paper pumpkin. I just love this flower and the leaf. So we are going to take the rose and stamp it with some gorgeous grape. So we're simply going to load it up with ink. And then we're just going to take a spritzing bottle of water, spritz it with the water, and then stamp it down and straight up. And then we're going to do that again. Spritz it, and down, and up. And one more time. Absolutely love this flower. It's incredible. Alright, so we're going to clean that off. So now we're going to come in with the leaf. And some good old... Oops, sorry. I whacked that with my head. Oh yeah, my favorite, old olive. I'll get this out of the way. So we're going to stamp this with some old olive. And once again, same process. We're going to stamp it, spritz it with some water, and come in, just kind of accentuate it on the tail end of the rose. So you can see that I made a bit of a boo-boo, so we're just going to come in and put a rose on the end there. Nobody will know the wiser, or the leaf rather. Spritz it again, come in up top. There's no wrong way. You can place your flowers any way you want. And your leaves. All right. And my favorite part of making cards, and I do this to almost every card I make, is I spritz it with this all-purpose ink that Stampin' Up! Has come up with, mixed in a bottle of hairspray. So right now it's on shimmery white cardstock, which you can leave alone and it doesn't look too bad. But when you add a little bit of spritz, check that out. It just gives it so much more oomph. So we're going to adhere that to some cardstock. And I am a big fan of full-size cards, so you take a piece of cardstock, cut it in half, score it again in half, and that is a full-size card, which measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So we are going to adhere the purple cardstock. And I'm using Gorgeous Grape. And this beautiful flowers we're going to put down. Ooh, fiddlesticks. I didn't cut that to the right size. Wait a second. Try to trim that down without getting glue all over the paper cutter. Sorry about that. I thought I cut this down the right size. Oh, boys. Sorry about that. Oh, that's better. It's a little off, but all right. So I'm going to let that sit just for 2 seconds. A little bit of weight on there. So the kit came with this corrugated background shapes. I'm not sure what you call them. So on this one here, what I did was I popped off one of them. And I ran it over the Gorgeous Grape just to kind of highlight the rivets in it. Just to give it a bit of texture. And then another favorite is the Stampin' Up! Thread that we have. Just add a little bit of depth to the card. put that on behind. I don't know if you can see that okay. It just gives it a little oomph. And then I stamped Best Wishes and embossed it with silver. Or we can use that little strip and add a saying like Happy Mother's Day. So that was from a paper pumpkin kit from last year. So the card's quite simple. And then of course embellishments. You always want to add some jewels to it. But the technique is what I was trying to show you. So it's basically stamp your image, spritz it with a little bit of water, stamp it, and then I sprayed it with that hairspray after to get that extra little glitter. So that's the purple one. Just love that color. All right, so let's do the blue one. So I have done embossing on the latter three, and I have used clear embossing powder. I have used white embossing powder, and I have used crystal clear embossing powder. So you can have 3 different techniques. One I have watercolored, and the other 2 I have used the Brusho powder and then spritzed it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first one we're going to do is this beautiful blue one. Just love how that turned out. So this one here, I used shimmery white cardstock again, but you can also use a watercolor cardstock because you're adding water to it. But I used watercolor on the other 2 and shimmering on this one, so let's do that again so we can show you how it turns out. I'll make sure I have this one cut to size this time before we do all that work. So a full-size cardstock cut in half. We have 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. The blue portion of this is going to be 4 by 5 1/4, and then the one that we're embossing is going to be 5 by 3 3/4, so that you can see the background on that. Okay. So for this one I used clear. So crystal clear embossing powder. So you want to wipe your paper, the little embossing buddy. You need some Versamark. You need your rose cleaned up from using it the last time. Okay, so let's get started. And you can just randomly stamp your flowers, and if you want to add more after you emboss, you can. So we're going to load that rose up with some Versamark ink. We're going to start at the top right corner. Come down a bit. And in this corner. So we're going to use the crystal clear embossing powder. I have all my embossing powders in tubs so I don't make a mess. I don't waste any. I have them all labeled so I can find them when I need them. So you don't know if you can see that, but I'm just going to heat that up. Perfect. So now we're going to do some of the flowers, or the leaves, sorry. And once you heat it up, you can kind of see, you know, where you can place your leaves. So we'll stick one there. That's good. Clear embossing powder. Heat that up. Perfect. So like I said, I just put it in a container, I label it, put them on my shelf, and I have them handy. So with this one, we are going to take, I just had a couple of old, they're actually been around for a while, they're called Extreme Elements, it's an old Stampin' Up set. So I stamped it. It's blueberry bushel. And once again, I spritzed it with water. And I came over the image with it. And then I took the hairspray and I spritzed it with that. So then I took the green leaves and I stamped it with this image. Oops, I keep knocking my head off the camera. Old Olive, my favorite. Spritzed it with water. Sorry, I keep taking the water off camera because I don't want to get water all over everything. And I came in and spritzed it. Okay. So then you want to dab off some of the excess paint or ink so that you can actually see your image underneath. And if you don't quite get the look you're working for, just add a little bit more water to it and that ink will run. And you want to get those flowers to pop. And the advantage of doing this is when you make cards, not all of them are going to be exactly the same. So I don't know if you can appreciate the embossed flowers under there. And the leaf. I'm just going to add a little more blue in this corner here. So then once you put that on the blue, it really pulls and pops, and you can appreciate the background textures. So I had cut out just a couple of roses. Let's Stampin' Up! Cells. And this guy was a bit big, so that's why I used the little one on here. So the background's quite incredible, and then just a single rose on top kind of adds to it. I think the big one's a bit too big, but... And then you can do Happy Mother's Day, you can do a birthday, you can put whatever you like on it. So that's the blue technique. I made quite a mess. Alrighty. So then this one here, I used the embossing powder iridescent ice. I don't know if you can appreciate, so the roses are actually glittery on this one. And then with this as well, that's when I used the, I keep forgetting what these are called. The brush show colors. I'm pretty sure these are getting discontinued in this catalog, and next catalog they're coming out with new colors. So for this one we're going to use Brilliant Red and Mossy Green. So I have a couple of leftover flowers from when I was playing. So we're going to cut these guys out for the cards, and I'm just going to show you how to do the background. So with this one we're using watercolor paper. It's thicker, it absorbs a bit more water, it gives you a bit more play with it. And then we're going to put it on a pink background. So make sure the sizes are cut. The iridescent ice, I did one in advance just to save camera time on the pink, and once again my sizes have been cut wrong. So with this one, I find that the brush-o colors work better if you put a little bit of water on the card, then the powder, and then add some water. So I'm just going to spritz it a little bit with water. And then we're going to come in and we're going to put the red on the actual flower. And we're going to put the green on the leaves. And you can come in and always add more. So I'm just going to spritz that here without hopefully making too much of a mess. So you can see the effect of the brush go. Brush go. Ready? So if you just add a bit more. clearly got more water in the middle than I did on the actual flowers. A little bit more green. So this stuff does make a bit of a mess, but the technique and the colors do turn out pretty amazing. And then what I'm going to do is take the heat emboss gun and just try to take some of that water off and dry it up a bit, okay? So I don't know if you can see the iridescent ice, the flowers, how they've popped on that. And once again, every card is going to be different because the technique is different. And we just want to pop up some of that flower. So sometimes if you take the embossing off, or the paint off the embossed layers, that embossed color pops a bit. So another cool technique using something different. So we're going to add that to the pink. And what I did here was I just added some rhinestones. What they're sequins. I just added some sequins just to give it a bit of bling. And I popped off a few and added them on there as well. And then I cut out the flower that I had done earlier. So the flower, I made the flower a bit darker so that it was more of a contrast on the card. And I, of course, sprayed it with the hairspray. So it had a bit of that glitter pop to it. And I used a lot more of that brush go on this. And there's the flower. And of course, we've got to add a leaf to it. So here's the leaves I did. Sprayed them, of course, with the hairspray for a little bit of bling. I've been using this hairspray technique for years. When Stampin' Up! First came out with that ink in the little bottles, I loaded up on it, and then I was quite delighted to hear they had come back out with it, because I just think it adds so much pop to a card. So there's a flower. Okay. So once again, it's the technique that I'm trying to show you behind using that stamp. And then the flower. And you can decorate it any way you want, and this is just how I decided to do it. So the image here is out of the kit. So we can add the Happy Mother's Day, or there's Thinking of You, whatever one you want to add, whatever the occasion is you're making the card for. So that's the technique for the red one. And then the orange one, I used clear embossing powder. No, actually white, I think. White embossing powder, sorry. And I used watercolor paper for that one as well. So that's the white, sorry. yeah, this is the white one. So I put the white in a container as well. So just so you can see the difference between the embossing powders and the technique you get, right? So this one here, I use the orange. Orange, a little bit of yellow, and of course the green. So we're going to wet it, spritz it with a little bit of water. And we're going to come in and use a little bit of the orange. And the yellow. So I kind of put the yellow in the middle and the orange around it, just to kind of make the middle portion of the rose like it has that cool yellow millow. And then we're going to add some green. Might have to spritz this. I can't find my other leaves. Oh, there they are up there. So you can add as much of this brusho as you like, get that technique you like. And I'm just spraying it off camera because the water does make a bit of a mess. I just find the watercolor paper takes a bit more abuse than the shimmery white cardstock. And if you're spritzing it with the hairspray anyway, you get your shimmer in the finish. So I'm just going to dry that up a bit. So that's it dried. And that's it before I spray it with hairspray. So I'm just going to spray it. So that's it before the hairspray. This is it after the hairspray. And every girl loves glitter. So we'll let that dry just for a couple seconds. And we'll cut out the rose that I did earlier for it. And I find this rose, it's so easy to cut out. Like, some people hate fussy cutting. I'm not a great fan of it, but this rose is so easy to cut out. It's not really a big deal. There. And of course I've got to cut out the leaf. You got to have that extra little pop. The leaf's easy to cut out as well. Alright, so we're going to put that on some orange cardstock. With the flower, the leaf. Now this one I did add some string on the behind. So the kit came with this thread. And then this thank you and this background piece also came with the kit. So we could do the best wishes. And then that corrugated piece that I showed you earlier, I used that on this one too. And I put the orange on the background of it. I just kind of ran it the same way I did the purple across the threads across the ink pad, just to give it that texture. So this one we could put the best wishes on with the flower. I might have made the background of this one a bit dark. The flower's not popping out as much as I'd like it to. But you get the gist of it. I just love that technique though. So embossing using Brusho, embossing using watercolor, embossing using any stamp set, and any embossing powder. I was used, well, like I explained, I had used white embossing powder, clear embossing powder, glitter embossing powder. So those are the three using the embossing powders. And this is just doing watercolor. So I hope you enjoyed the video on the alternatives for the paper pumpkin. It is quite a remarkable kit. I love how versatile it is. I can see a lot of cards in my future with this kit. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'm Sue Grant. My email address, you can shop online at Stampin' Up! And look for me, Susan Grant. I have a YouTube channel, which you're watching if you want to subscribe to, and you could also follow me on Instagram. So I hope you enjoy these cards, and have a great day.